This is John Warner, and welcome to part 3 of using Modstache to create a shopping list application. In this part, we're going to add controls to mark an item as complete and add another control to delete it entirely. Okay, so to do that, let's first adjust our controls up here. I'm going to mark the item as purchased or complete by using a checkbox. And then I want to move the text of the item to a span. And the reason I need to do that is when I specify it just on the div, it replaces the entire contents of the div with that. And I don't want to do that. I want to keep my checkbox. So here I've added a checkbox. Now if I add an item, you can see the checkbox. Now let's add some styling so that when you check on it, let's put a line through the text. So to do that, we need to use another event on the checkbox, and we'll say on change, the onChange event. We'll call an event handler called mark item, and we'll define that in our model. And here we're going to use two parameters, the context and the element as the second parameter. Element can also be accessed from the context through the element property, but this can be a shorter way to access that. So to do this, we're also going to add some styling to the item to show the strike through. And to do that, we'll set style text decoration, and we'll use a property called mark. Now each of these is going to go through and look at each item, and so we can add this property here. So if it's null, there's no strike through. Otherwise, we can set this to line through to visually do this. Now there's one other problem here. I've defined mark item at the shopping list level and not inside of each array object. So it won't find mark item. In this case, I need to access the base of the Modstache objects. That's always going to be what's passed in here. In this case, it's shopping list, and utilize the one method called mark item. So here, let's set the mark property, and we'll do this by looking at the context root, and this is going to be the root object inside our array that we're processing at the moment. And we'll check the check property of our input and set it to line through if it's checked or null if it's not. So let's save this and add an item. Now if we click on this, you can see our styling has been updated to line through. Now let's add one more object to delete the item. We'll do that with a link, and let's show the time symbol inside. That looks like an X. So here you can see how that looks. There's a little X. So if we click on that, we want to delete the item. So I'm going to call another event. So I'll click, and here I'll access the base again, so I only have to define this method once, and we'll call it remove item. Now let's define that in our model. Remove item, and here we'll pass in the context and the event handler is returned. And here let's delete the item from our array. So to do that, we want to go to the base object items, and we're going to splice out the current or clicked on item. And we can do that with looking at the index of property or method of the array and pass in the root object, and we only want to delete one of them. Alright, so let's go ahead and add a couple of items. So we'll add in eggs, bread, and some butter. And if we want to delete this, let's see, that didn't work. We mistyped here, so we want the items here. Okay, so let's add in some things here. Eggs, bread, and butter. And now when we click, you can see that item has been deleted.